The previous lesson, we saw all the really cool things we can do with HTML forms. So in this lesson, I want to get more specific on the different attributes that are available to us when we're creating our forms. So with forms, there's quite a lot that you can do with them. And one of the things that you can do is you can set some default values. So if we want to set a value for the first name, so everyone coming in would automatically see this first name of Mike, we can go value equals Mike. So same thing that we did over here with the input button. So if we don't want to type submit, then we could do value, hit this, or whatever we want to call it, and we see that that changes. So the value attribute is used in order to change the value of the input form. We can also do things where maybe we want to disable this, so we can do disabled, and that gives us the ability to not give them an opportunity to actually update the content in there. We can also specify things where we want to specify required as well. So this email, maybe we want to do required. So this is HTML5. So when I click it, we've got this pop-up here that says please fill in this form. So this is another really useful one in HTML5 where we're setting that required. So another thing here in order to keep in mind is what we actually do with the form itself. So we don't actually know, we haven't specified where we're actually sending this form or how we're sending this form or anything like that. And this is where you need to add in some attributes within the form itself. So the action is going to specify where we're actually sending the form to, submit dot, and usually you're going to do something where you're submitting it to the server end so it can actually pick up that data and utilize it. So if we do submit and now we click it, and I should actually take this required off because otherwise I'm going to constantly have to click that. So if I click this, let's just save this quickly. We click it and we see that we don't have that URL, so we got to go back there. And that's one of the things here within the form, that when we specify where we're going, it actually defaults and sends that page to there. There's another thing that's really important within forms, and that's to specify the method. So with forms, we have an option to send get method. And actually within here we're not able to see, so I'm going to create a brand new page, place this form in here, and we'll just save it as myform.html. and now I can go over to here and let's go over to myform.html. So now we see we've got this form here, and I click it and we see, so it's trying to send it over to submit.com, but look in the URI here where we've actually specified the information that we entered into the form. And this is what I meant by what we're receiving within the form. And when we use get, it actually places this content from the form into our URL here within where we're sending the data. If we use post, what's going to happen, so now when I refresh this, and now remember this isn't get anymore, this now is post. So when I click it, we see that we don't get any of that information being passed within the URI. And basically the difference between the get and the post is where you send your secure information. So if you've got passwords or you've got a bunch of data that you want to keep from being within the URL, then make sure that you are submitting via post instead of get, because get is not secure, and it's not the best way to send data, because it is readable within the URI. And if you're picking up from the URI, if somebody gets that URI, then that actually can get sent over and submitted to the server. So if the server is picking up that information, so use post for secure communications, use get for if you want that data to be sitting within the URL. And if you don't specify the page that you're sending it to, so I'm going back out here, I'm going to refresh it and I hit it, so we just default back to the default page, or I should say the current page that the user's on. So we don't actually go to a new page, we just go back to the same page that we just sent from. And so the important part of this lesson is this is why we specify the names, because this is how we pick it up within the server. If we didn't specify these names, we'd actually have no way to be able to pick up the content here. So we see within that URL there where you can type in some content there, and of course it needs to be a URL. So let's create a URL here. And when we hit it, we're not actually passing anything over, and that's because we haven't specified the name. But if I change this and if I add a name to there, so I'm going to just call it URL, go back out, refresh this page. Now I got to type in a URL again, and now too many T's. So now we see that now it's actually passed within the URL here up at the top. So always make sure that you do specify the name, and this is how you're able to retrieve that data on the other end when you're picking that up. So that's how you work with forms in HTML. So in the next lesson, we're going to finalize the course. We're going to quickly go over how we can add in styling, how we can add in JavaScript, and how we can really update our web page in order to make it more effective and dynamic, using CSS, making it look better, and then JavaScript in order to add dynamic interactions. So that's coming up in the next lesson.